It's time for the Northwoods Cooking Show. Starring Uncle Roy and Miss Callie, the troublemaking dog.
Hello and welcome to Northwoods Cooking Show. I'm your host, Uncle Roy, and welcome back to the holidays with the Northwoods Cooking Show. We're going to be doing a lot of lovely Christmas baking recipes this year, and we're continuing on now with our next episode, and this is going to be red velvet crinkle cookies. Now remember the chocolate ones? They were the ones that, chocolate cookie that after you bake them they kind of crackle on top. Well, this is basically the same thing, but it's a red velvet cookie. Ooh, that's a little bit more sinful. So let's start out with, we're going to be needing 1 2/3 cup of flour. And make sure now we take and level that off. We want to have perfect cookies. At Christmas time especially, you want everything to be just right, because you're giving these away as gifts. So you want to have your good vanilla, you want to have butter, you don't want to use margarine. So you want to make sure you have good products, and you want to level these off so you have perfect measurements, because even the slightest teaspoon will dry out your cookies and make them more tough, and you don't want that for Christmas. Okay, so that was 1 2/3 cup of flour, along with 1 1/2 teaspoons of baking powder. And if you haven't used your powder in a while, you want to stir that up in the bottom of the can, just so that you get it more active on the top. And I don't worry about it too much because I do a lot of baking. But if it's been a while, it's always good to get fresh, brand new baking powder and soda for the Christmas season. You don't have to worry about it. And if it's the last time you use it over a year, it's going to be kind of inactive, so it's best to get a new can. And then we need a 1/2 teaspoon of salt, kosher salt, remember that? Because the kosher salt is flaky, so it's less sodium than iodized salt, but salt is a limiting agent, so you want to make sure you have that in there to make your cookies light and fluffy. Then we also need 3 tablespoons of cocoa. And you can scrape that right off. Now this here is, what is that now? I did see this earlier and I can't see it here now. You want to use one that's at least 65% cacao or higher for your best chocolate. And I believe this one is 65. Your dark chocolates are usually much higher. So we got all that. And then we'll just take and mix this up with a wire whisk. Now the metal wire whisking is going to aerate this and break up any lumps you might have in your flour or baking powder. And it helps to aerate, to get everything all mixed together thoroughly. So you don't have, ingredients in big old chunks in one spot or another. I used to tease my mom all the time. When we were kids, used to bite into a cookie or something, get a chunk of baking soda. Ooh, yes. If you don't like it, make it yourself. Well, I am. So anyway, this just helps to aerate it and make it just much more well mixed up. Okay, so that's our dry ingredients. Now let's switch over to our wet, and I'll set that up and just be back in a second. Oh, and welcome my new assistant, Charlie. I was thinking of, on Rudolph the Island Misfit Toys, we had Charlie in the box, you know, so Jack, well, this don't look like Frosty, it's a different kind of animation, so I just called him Charlie. But he came to join us. Gotta get Christmassy. Okay. Now, we're gonna have our wet ingredients. So we need a half cup of butter. You want this at room temperature. You want it softened. If you don't have it room temperature, you can just, after you take it out of the fridge, just put it in the microwave for about 20 seconds and that'll soften it up. We don't want to melt it because that'll change the consistency of your cookies completely. So we want to whip this up along with 1 cup of white sugar. We can start putting this together. Now, when creaming your butter and sugar together, you want to do it until those sugar crystals all dissolve. And that's going to make it a light and fluffy cookie then. Otherwise, the crystals, if they're not dissolved, weigh it down. It's not as fluffy. You want to have excellent cookies. Now we can just pour this in slowly, kind of. And then we want to mix this for about 3 to 4 minutes. If you have to set a timer, then go ahead. Because like I said, you want this light and fluffy. So we'll just let this go to town, and then we'll be right back. Okay, this is coming together. Now we'll take and put in 2 eggs, 1 at a time. And you want to have these at room temperature if you can. That makes it easier so they incorporate better. But if you don't, if you, forget, sort of time, just put it in a container of hot water. Let that sit for about 10 minutes. And then you'll have warmed up eggs. Now that changes the consistency of the batter and it's much smoother now. Okay, now along with this, we need 1 teaspoon of vanilla. And if you can afford to, get the Madagascar bourbon vanilla. I know it's expensive, but that's like the best vanilla. Mexican vanilla is really good too. But that bourbon one, that is so good. I use that in competition at the fair, and that's what they just love that stuff. But it's expensive, but it's the holiday season, so if you can afford it, get it. It makes a big, huge difference in your baking. Then, we also need a teaspoon of lemon juice. And put that right in there. And along with that, we'll need 1 teaspoon of red food coloring. Now, kind of be careful with this, as I've just discovered recently. This stuff bleeds for some reason all over, so you want to be careful not to spill it or get it on your hands or your countertops, etc. Because it will stain. If you use a little bleach water on a little rag or something, that'll help. That'll take it right off your countertop. But just be careful when you handle it, because it just gets everywhere for some reason. Okay, we got that going. Now we're going to take and make sure to scrape the sides of your bowl. Do this especially when you're creaming the butter, because that butter has a tendency to stick to the sides and not get incorporated in with the beater. So you're not getting air in there, you're not making it light and fluffy, and you're not getting all your ingredients properly mixed together so you get a wonderful cookie to work with. All right, now we can take and put in our dry ingredients. Now, if you, generally speaking, I used to always say use a wooden spoon, which is true, because you don't want to activate the gluten. Of course, I got a big handle on this one, and it can work too. But you can use your mixer if you use it on a low speed. You don't want it high, and as soon as that flour is absorbed into your liquids completely, then just stop immediately. Otherwise, you will activate the gluten. So we can just put this in a little at a time in different stages. Wait for it to get incorporated. Just about done. And you can put a little bit more in. And you can just do it in stages until it's all mixed in thoroughly. Just keep an eye on that. When it's just about completely, we can take and stop. It's just about complete. It's just a little bit powder in there, almost completely. We don't want, it's not quite yet. Because now we're going to add in our white chocolate chips if you have them. If not, I have white chocolate, but I just took and chopped it up into chunks. Make it chunky. It's approximately 3.5 to 4 ounces of chocolate chips, white chocolate chips, or turns out to be like 1 square off of your 12 square packet of white almond bark, the white baking chocolate. So one of those squares is the right exact amount. So I just take that 1 chunk and just 1 square and just chop it up into big chunks, even smaller chunks. Now this we could take and mix this in by hand, which I will do here. But like I said, I just don't want to activate that gluten. And this is starting to get to be a little on the stiffer side, the dough now. You got all that flour in there mixed in. So we just don't want to, get tough cookies. So we can just, also by doing this, you're getting all your ingredients, if they're stuck to the side of the bowl, mixed in thoroughly. And that only takes a couple of swift stirs here. And that's it. Simple. That is just so simple. Oh God, is that ever rich. This makes a nice Christmas cookie. All right, so now we'll just wrap this in cellophane. And we want to put this in the refrigerator to chill completely so that it holds its shape, because we got all that butter in there when it bakes. So what you need to do is put this in the refrigerator and let it chill for approximately 2 hours. Or if you're in a hurry, or if you're doing a lot of things, whatever, don't have time, you can stick it in the freezer for like 20 minutes to half an hour. And I'll just put this in here. We'll let it chill, and then we'll be back to bake. Okay, now our dough is all nice and chilled. And just take a little cookie scooper, and we're going to get, let's see, a bowl here. And in the bowl, we can put in approximately, about a half a cup of powdered sugar. Big ball there of sugar. And we'll just take and scoop up our cookie dough. And then we just take and just roll this into powdered sugar. And then we'll just stagger our rows. On my sheet, I can usually get like 4, 3, 4, 3. Because in that second row, we just put the drop in between each cookie like that. So that way you can squeeze in more cookies on your sheet. And then we just keep on doing this until we use up all the dough. And this is going to go into a 350-degree oven and bake for about 8 to 10 minutes. And you'll see the cookie crackle in the oven when they're done. Then we'll just take them out and let them cool for about 5 minutes on the cookie sheet so that they have a chance to set before we slide them off and put them onto our cookie racks to cool completely. And then we'll have our red velvet crinkles for a Christmas cookie. And then we'll be right back. Okay, now, got the cookies out. They're cooled on the rack here for like 5 minutes. And then we're just going to transfer these over to the cooling rack. And then we can let these cool completely. And then we can take and eat them. Or what I'll probably end up doing is putting these in freezer bags and throw them in the freezer and save them then for the actual holiday of gift giving. And this is what I like to do, is make up a whole bunch of cookies and candies, put them in containers and freeze them, or stick them outside on your deck if you got room, you know, in those big Rubbermaid containers, those 25-gallon ones. And yeah, it's cold now, it's freezing outside, so yeah, use your back deck as your freezer, if you don't have room in your freezer, that is. I know I had to leave behind my deep freeze when I moved from the old place to here because there's no room here, and I'm like, oh God, I hated to leave that and give that up. Oh, I just love that thing. Oh, now these little freezers don't hold much, you know. And that's the second batch here. Let that cool for 5 minutes. So these are the red, oh, I cut myself at work today. So these are the red velvet crinkle Christmas cookies. Oh, don't they look fabulous? Woo! There's white chocolate chips on the inside. Well, you can tell, you can just see the red velvet chocolate cake there. Oh, wonderful Christmas cookie. Very simple to make. On to the next. Okay, now we can go on to our next recipe. And these are going to be the peanut butter thumbprint cookies. Now, this isn't the blossom type, but it's very similar, very, very similar. It's just a different way of doing it with thumbprint rather than a Hershey Kiss on top. So for this, we're going to have a half cup of butter. And again, soften this up at room temperature or in the microwave for about 20 seconds, straight out of the refrigerator. Soften up this so it gets light and fluffy, mixes in better. And along with this, we're going to be just whip it up for about 30 seconds or so for right now. And then to this, we'll be adding 1/2 cup of creamy peanut butter. And we'll blend these together. And then to this, we're going to be adding a 1/2 cup each of white and brown sugar. Now you can just take and scoop this out of the side, out of your bag, and just level it all off inside the bag. That just saves a little time and cleanup. That can go right in. And then a 1/2 cup of the white sugar. And now we'll just blend these together until they're light and creamy. We might just get light and fluffy so that all that little sugar crystals will dissolve. So let this go for like 3 or 4 minutes and then we'll be right back. Okay, this is nice and creamy and fluffy. And just make sure to scrape the sides of your bowl. Make sure all that sugar is dissolved and mixes in well. And then we're going to add 2 eggs, one at a time. Let that incorporate thoroughly before adding the second one. And if your eggs are cold and you don't have them at room temperature, just put them in a container of some hot water and just let them warm up for about 10 minutes and they'll be warm enough. Because the warm eggs are going to help everything get lighter and fluffier. It's not going to weigh it down and make it flatter. So you want to have those good, perfect cookies for Christmas. Okay, now for our dry ingredients, in a separate bowl, we're going to be using a 1.5 cups of all-purpose flour. And we just make sure to level that off. And along with this, we need a 1/2 teaspoon of the kosher salt. And half. And a teaspoon of baking soda. And again, if you haven't baked in a while, you want to make sure you stir that soda up so that it's not, so it is activated. Because just by sitting on your shelf can be deactivated if it's, it's been there for quite a long time. Like I said before too, it's best to have fresh baking soda and baking powder at the beginning of your holiday season. Now we'll just take and whisk this up together. The wire whisk helps to break up any lumps or clumps you might have in there of the flour or soda or salt, etc. So that this gets evenly distributed in your cookie dough. Now we'll just take and put this in to our bowl, and you can stir this up. Again, it's like I said, it's best to use a wooden spoon, but if you want to use a mixer, you can. Just make sure you stop as soon as that flour is incorporated with the wet ingredients. We don't want to over mix it and activate that gluten, or we're going to have dry, harder cookies. So we can just put this on just until it comes together on the lowest speed that you have. And when it's just about done, we can stop. There we go. You can see there's still a little bit of flour there on the dough. I just don't want to over mix it is all. Because this we can just take now and scrape off our beater, and we can just mix the rest in by hand just to make sure that it's thoroughly blended in. Oh, this is one of Callie's favorites. She loved peanut butter. Oh, she'd go crazy with peanut butter. We even had peanut butter shortbread holiday doggy treats. I remember making those quite often for her. So we just take and scrape this together. And there we are. There you go. Now this we don't have to chill. We can just start scooping out immediately and balling it up. So it's going to take our cookie scooper, and you just want to like about a 1/2 cup of granulated sugar, and just take and scoop up a bit of a ball of dough, and just roll this around, and we'll just put this on our cookie sheet. Now you want to have your oven set at 350, and they'll bake for approximately 10 to 12 minutes. And before you pop them in the oven, you just want to take your thumb and press down in the center so we have a little indentation, because then we're going to fill it up with chocolate after they cool down. So let's just bake these off then, and we'll be right back. Okay, now while cookies are baking in the oven right now, we're going to be making the chocolate, which is a chocolate ganache. And the ganache, remember, very, very easy to make. It's just whipping cream and your chocolate. So you can use any kind of chocolate you want to. You can even do white chocolate if you wanted to. But it's just equal amounts of chocolate and heavy cream. And I got that. Heat it up. You don't need to boil it, but just heat it up. And then we put in the cup of chocolate, half cup of chocolate. And now we'll just let that sit for about 5 minutes, and they'll just melt on their own. So just let that sit, and the cookies will be done. When the cookies are done, like I said, let them sit on the cookie sheet for about 5 minutes, and then transfer them to cool them back to cool completely. And then we can take and mix up our chocolate and just dab a little teaspoon on the center of every cookie. Okay, so now, after you mix that up, you just want to let it sit for a few minutes. The longer you let it sit, the thicker it'll get up on you. And now, I'm trying to figure out the best way to do this. Got a teaspoon here. And we can just put a teaspoon of chocolate right in the center of each cookie. And you want this chocolate to cool down a little bit. Like I said, the longer you let it cool, the thicker it'll get. But you still want this at a spreading consistency so that when you put this on your cookie, it's going to spread out just a little bit more. So we just keep continuing on and drop teaspoons of chocolate in the center of each little peanut butter cookie. Now I have the old peanut butter blossom recipe on my website, on YouTube, in one of my Christmas episodes. And that's the same principle, but that has the Hershey Kiss on top rather than the ganache here. Now when you want to let these cool completely so that chocolate solidifies, and then you can store them in your containers with a piece of wax paper in between layers, or you can freeze them too. I would wait for that chocolate to set completely until it's hardened before freezing, because you don't want to mess it up and get it all smooth out and flat and crickety and runny, whatever. So just let that cool completely. And then we'll just take, and I'll give you a close-up here. You can see how we're doing this. So you can see here I'm just scooping out a little bit of the ganache and just popping that right into the center of each cookie. And this is just a different way of doing it rather than with the Kiss. The Kiss is easier and simpler, but this is a ganache. So this is a more richer chocolate rather than just being solid chocolate. There's whipping cream, heavy cream mixed in with it. So there's our peanut butter thumbprints. Hope you enjoy. So I hope you enjoy these cookies that we made today, the peanut butter thumbprints and the red velvet white chocolate Christmas cookie. This is another addition to your holidays for the season. And from the Northwoods Cooking Show, I'd like to say, eat healthy, be safe, spread the sunshine, and happy holidays and Merry Christmas. Bye-bye.